What's up, guys? Richard here, back with another episode of the I Ching Oracle the Cosmic Way series. Today we're on Hexagram 58. It's really one of my favorite hexagrams, I have to tell you. The joyful, the joyous, which is lake over lake. The judgment, joyful, success, perseverance is favorable. The trigram tui, doubled in this hexagram, has been traditionally associated with two images, the still water of the lake and the stagnant water of the swamp. Here, the sage pointed to still water as representing the conditions that bring about true joy, and stagnant water as the conditions that pervert it. The still water thus represents the cosmic principle of joy. Defined further, the still water of the lake represents the liquidity and stillness of the mind that make insight possible. Liquidity means not fixed in one's views, while stillness is the absence of ego emotions and preconceived ideas. Liquidity and stillness make a person receptive to the liquid light that enables instant communication with the sage through mind flashes. A mind flash occurs when the liquid light transforms cosmic consciousness, which exists as a feeling, into words or images that express the cosmic truth needed in the moment. It is to be noted that mind flashes are but one of the myriad ways in which the sage is able to communicate. The stagnant water of the swamp characterizes the demonic sphere of consciousness and its perverting qualities, which lead to rigid attitudes. Its joy is the perverted joy that results from the demonizing of what is natural in us. Legge translates the success indicated in the judgment as the pleasure of inward harmony. Fiedler uses yet another meaning of the Chinese word tui, calling the hexagram der Austausch, meaning the exchange. The joyful, as we were guided to name this hexagram, conveys the sense of relief and joy that comes when an incorrect name that has been given to something, placing a spell on it, is exchanged for a name that describes its essence, freeing it from that spell. A thing's true name is found by asking the sage to be shown its true nature. It comes from inner reflection rather than from only looking at its outer appearance. The same principle applies to finding the inner truth that correctly describes situations. The image of true joy is embodied in the vision of the calm lake with its mirrored surface. When things are called by their true names, they feel recognized for what they truly are. That brings them joy and the peace that resolves the inner anxiety and self-doubt created from being called by a wrong name. It also brings joy to the person who names them correctly, because a feeling of unity is created between them. The still lake is also a metaphor for a situation where the words and images express its inner truth. The joyful also expresses the activity of finding, with the help of the sage, the words that express the inner truth of situations through putting questions to the sage. Perseverance refers to questioning all the names humans have given to things and the qualities attributed to them by putting them to the sage, since correcting our use of language is one of the primary functions of the oracle. Since both the names and qualities attributed to things contain often hidden assumptions, these assumptions need to be questioned together with our unreflective use of language altogether. It is this unreflective use of language that allows the collective ego to superimpose its human-centered view and false values upon the individual, and thereby maintain its power. Making the effort to rectify language is essential because the whole parallel reality created by humans is due to wrong words and the false use of language. Among the most common false assumptions are that we humans are special because we have the ability of language. The I Ching shows us that this ability is unique, but not special, because every aspect of the cosmos has been given unique abilities. That the words we commonly use to describe things are correct. When we receive answers from the sage that we do not understand, it is time to ask through the RTCM whether our question contained a word that has no cosmic basis, meaning it contradicts the cosmic way. One may ask, is there a problem with the word I used? If the answer is yes, the first step is to identify the problem word or words. Finding the correct word often answers the entire question. To find the correct word, we must give the sage the opportunity to show that word in a larger context, as for example, by developing one or more hexagrams. An example of how we misname things is when we call the help coming from the helpers a miracle or magic or regarded as supernatural. Their help is the normal way nature accomplishes its task when we have not interfered with or blocked it. Wow, incredible. That problems need to be resolved solely on the outer plane. This assumption is often hidden when we ask, what can I do about this problem? The cosmic way to correct problems is to take action first in the realm of consciousness by saying the inner no, or calling on the helpers for help. After having done this, we may then ask, am I also meant to do something on the outer plane? That the I Ching contains moral rules of conduct. Moral rules of conduct put spells on people's cosmic virtues. What is needed is to liberate oneself from superimposed moral rules which block and pervert true joy. Perseverance is favorable points to the necessity to always make sure that we have understood the sage's message correctly, rather than merely assuming that we have. A major problem that inhibits joy in life is naming the cosmic consciousness God, when that word is connected with images that present a mistaken view of the cosmos. When, however, God is seen as the all, which includes all that exists and means only loving energy, then that idea is in harmony with the cosmos. Not in harmony is an image of God in human form. God as the supreme authority, God as the authorizer and protector of the collective ego, God as a monarch or judge, a wielder of power, and as possessing characteristics and emotions common to the ego in humans. Also discordant is the image of God as having given man the job of being overseer of God's property, the earth. These ideas of God are essentially Western in origin. While there is no specific concept of God in the Chinese tradition, the role that heaven played in authorizing the emperor resembled these mistaken Western ideas of God. A major problem with the ideas of God and heaven is that they show the cosmic consciousness ordered like a feudal society. It is an image of the invisible world created to support humans' arrogant view of themselves. A student of the I Ching who is unaware of the above mentioned problem ideas easily makes the sage into a figure of authority, thus creating a false distance between himself and the sage. In this relationship, he sees himself as little or insignificant. Such projections on the sage and on himself make it difficult for the sage to approach him in the friendly, personal way that is natural to the sage. If the student rids himself of all his projections, the presence of the sage is felt as true joy, and he himself is no longer caught in the grip of being the eternal child. The same joy comes when a person acknowledges the helpers of the invisible world as companions and friends. When we begin to experience and recognize the sage and the helpers in our daily lives, we also begin to experience the loving, generous nature of the cosmos. We shut out its love when we give it false names, attributes, and identities. Those of us who come from Western religions to consult the sage tend to see the sage as the founder or figurehead of a religion. Such a view is spurred by the ego need to make the sage into a comfortable father-like figure that belongs to our family or clan. Various lines in the I Ching, especially in Hexagram 13, associating with people, address this appropriation of the sage by the individual ego as partiality. The sage is neither a father nor a partisan of any clan. Behind this tendency is the fear of damnation that accompanies any thought of turning away from the God of one's fathers. The sage, knowing the depth of the underlying fear, gives the person time to develop the confidence needed to trust the sage enough to reject this threat. True joy also comes when a person recognizes his own true nature and embraces it fully. This is different from the feelings of self-contempt that dwell in a person who has obtained power and recognition through deceiving others. This self-contempt is projected outward as a contempt for those who have believed his deception. Invariably, with time, this joy that has come from being seen as special by the collective ego deflates and must again and again be reinflated until such time as it burns out altogether. At the point of burnout, the person is left with a feeling of emptiness because he now sees the falseness and vapidity of the collective ego's recognition. Finally, the Chinese ideogram Tui shows how anxiety and self-doubt are dispelled. when the correct names for things are found. This is also to say that anxiety and self-doubt are always the consequence of misunderstanding the nature of things. When we realize the unity of the cosmic whole and that it functions through harmony, we realize that nothing in its nature gives cause for fear and doubt. Fear and doubt come from accepting spells projected upon us by ourselves or by others, or from assigning wrong names to things. Dispelling these spells is the undertaking that brings us joy. It is done through taking away the wrong names, by saying the inner no to them, and finding the correct names with the help of the sage. Line 1, contented joy, good fortune. Contented joy refers to a state of awareness that is free of negative expectation and or projection. See Hexagram 25, innocence, not expecting, not projecting. This line refers to the state of the newborn child because it does not yet use language. It relies on the perfect inner feeling program it possesses to live life in harmony with the cosmos, free of negative expectations and projections. This state differs from that of the adult who has learned to use words to describe reality and to construct belief systems. Receiving this line may indicate that the words he uses to name things do not express their inner truth. Therefore, he is in conflict with these things. The problem can be resolved by finding the correct names. This happens, for example, when a person calls the cosmic consciousness God and attributes to it all the ideas listed in the main text. Giving the wrong name to a thing puts a spell on it. Line 2, sincere joy, good fortune, remorse disappears. Sincere joy refers to submitting the names by which we call things to the sage to see whether they are correct. When we find the correct name for that which has been misnamed, the cause for doubt and fear that are inspired by the incorrect name disappears. This is the good fortune referred to. Receiving this line makes a person aware that he has drawn false conclusions due to misnaming something or to having accepted wrong names given by others. To carry on the example given in line 1, when we misname the cosmic consciousness God, certain fears are aroused that come from seeing it as an authority figure that has power over us. When we realize the cosmic consciousness is neither higher nor uses power, but helps us reunite with its harmony, there is no place for fear. That is the meaning of remorse disappears. Line 3, future joy, misfortune. This line refers to drawing false conclusions about the cosmic way from looking only at the negative appearance of something, as when we conclude that life is suffering, or that joy is to be attained only in the future or in the afterlife. The misfortune is the fate that is created by such a belief, as it projects itself into reality. Such a belief also puts a spell on the person's cosmic gifts, making it impossible for him to enjoy them. For example, these gifts include his ability to receive and express love in all its aspects, and to ask the cosmic family for help with all his needs. The person can correct this problem and the fate he has created by ridding himself of all the beliefs having to do with joy coming in the future or in the afterlife. Beliefs in joy coming in the afterlife are based on the division of the cosmos into heaven and hell, with earth and nature being on the hell side of this division. Heaven in this picture is associated with the expected joy of being in the presence of God, the King of heaven. Such beliefs demonize the helpers that comprise all aspects of our earthly nature, as well as those of nature generally. When freed of this demonizing, they give us the sense of well-being and wholeness here and now, which is the true joy defined by this hexagram. The person who builds his life on hopes of future joys misses out on living his life altogether. The person who lives his life in the moment draws the helpers to his side. By recognizing their presence in his daily life, he constantly experiences joy. As for the person who has experienced misfortune, if he will let go of his negative thoughts and emotions about it and go on with his life without expectation and without regret, he will find himself accompanied by the cosmic helpers. Line 4, joy that is weighed is not at peace. After ridding himself of mistakes, a man has joy. This line refers to a person's allowing the ego in himself to weigh and choose what it prefers, rather than allowing the cosmos to give him what is correct. For example, a person may be weighing whether to settle for a relationship at hand that is incorrect, or he may be compromising his dignity and integrity by accepting inequality, insensitive treatment, or other unfair conditions in order to get along. The ego, in urging such acceptance, suggests that you can wait forever without getting what you really want, and better the bird in the hand than two in the bush. Such a relationship cannot lead to inner peace. If he says the inner no to such phrases and suggestions and corrects his mistake, he will make it possible for the correct relationship to happen. This line also refers to weighing through asking the sage whether a word or a phrase expresses cosmic truth. Often it is only a matter of adding or omitting one word that turns a cosmic truth into a half-truth. Receiving this line can indicate that we have failed to subject our primary beliefs to such questioning. Thus, we have allowed the ego to weigh and choose what it prefers. Line 5. Sincerity towards disintegrating influences is dangerous. Sincerity towards disintegrating influences refers to judging the nature of things in terms of good and evil. Doing so divides the wholeness of nature into opposing parts that fight each other. The person receiving this line is made aware that the question he has put to the sage implies that nature or the cosmos in general are divided into good and evil parts. This assumption is incorrect. The cosmos is a system of harmony. Only the parallel reality created by the wrong use of language is characterized by opposites. This line can also refer to a person's thinking he has rights, which he must protect. Behind this idea is the hidden assumption that humans are at the center of the universe. When a person is in harmony with the cosmos, there is no need for rights, as the cosmos protects what he truly possesses. The same hidden assumption is at work when a person decides that he will trust the sage's advice only when its answers agree with his own views. Such an approach will be ignored by the sage, so that only false or misleading answers are received. This is the source of the danger mentioned. Line 6, seductive joy. What is seductive is the short-lived joy that comes from the self-admiration of the person who, seduced by the ego, imagines himself to have been given the special task to name things according to his own whims. The result is that he puts spells on them, creating suffering for them and a fate for himself. There is also a certain seductive joy in putting oneself up on a pedestal to judge others and their ways. Since indulgence in such joys comes from the ego with its knowing better, it creates inner wars between people. These wars can be stopped by saying the inner no to the ego in oneself. Judging others is the way the collective ego keeps its order going. Fear of being judged intimidates people, keeping them from following their inner truth. The collective ego succeeds in these tactics through calling people and things culprits, when from the cosmic point of view, there's no such thing as a culprit. The word culprit puts a spell on them. It also creates a fate for the one who creates the spell, and misfortune for the one who accepts it, either knowingly or unknowingly. Receiving this line indicates that a person is putting spells on things and on a situation by misidentifying and misnaming them. This person believes he is at liberty to give verbal expression to his fantasies, be it through writing or speaking, without being aware that he is doing them harm. An example is the storyteller who uses his word and image minds to gain power over other people's minds by stimulating their ego fantasies rather than to reflect to them their inner truth. Such a misuse of his abilities creates a fate. Finally, true joy comes when we free the intuitive and word minds from being harnessed by the ego and made to serve its purposes. Once freed, they are restored to their original functions, with the intuitive mind having the function of forming images of inner truth, and the word mind of rendering these images into words. That's it for Hexagram 58, the joyful. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying these videos. I certainly am enjoying creating them, and I'll see you again in the next one.